Girl Jasmine back when I be on the channel. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Let's go. Alright, y'all. So we got making the case. But with the Bulls. The 96 Bulls. This is one of the teams that people say was one of the greatest. People had the debates to see which team was the greatest. But this Bulls team was one of the teams that everybody said that's one of the best damn teams they ever seen. So y'all can let me know in the comments. Let's go ahead and get into it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and push the notification bell so you know I post. That being said, let's go. Let's get it.
So today, I'll be making the case. Why this Bulls team? Weirdly, that's a question I anticipate people asking. Between the 1990-91 season and the 97-98 season, the Chicago Bulls won 6 championships behind the efforts of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and head coach Phil Jackson. Each was punctuated with immortal, memorable scenes.
Before we talk about just the team, I gotta ask y'all this. Phil Jackson, the greatest coach ever. Basketball coach ever. Is he? Is he one of them ones? Yeah, really think about it. Phil got a nice record. Phil Jackson has a lovely record. Let's go.
A crying Jordan holding his first trophy. A shrug. A flu. And more than one iconic series icing shot. Why this team and not another? People who fancied themselves basketball snobs occasionally sort out those who submit the 96 Bulls into this discussion. No way, they say. The 91 and 92 Bulls were way better. Michael and Scottie were younger, the league was more competitive, and they had way more depth on the front line. Yeah, the 96 Bulls record is impressive, but the league had expanded. New teams had diluted the talent pool and created a vacuum. For you to say that the 96 Bulls are the best just goes to show that you don't really know what you're talking about. You probably love Patrick Beverley, don't you, you filthy casual? And those are some valid points. Michael and Scottie were younger. The league was more competitive. And those teams did not suffer from the same dearth of talent in their big men that the 96 squad did. So, here's the facts. They went 72-10, the best record to that point in NBA history, and the first team to win over 70 games. Their 87-13 overall record is the highest winning percentage of any team ever. They paced the field in nearly every important statistic and still have the highest net rating for a single season ever. Their roster consisted of Hall of Famers Michael
Randy Brown. I don't think I ever heard of Randy Brown.
Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. Tony Kukoc came off the bench as one of the best sixth men of all time. Ron Harper was a defensive specialist at point guard. Steve Kerr and Judd Butchler provided offense off the bench, while Luke Longley and Bill Wennington manned the middle.
What did Randy Brown do?
Why not use a different Bulls team? Because by nearly every metric that we use to measure teams, this team is not only clearly the best Chicago Bulls team ever, it is the greatest NBA team ever. They won more games than any other champion has ever won. That alone should count for something. The entire goal of the sport is to win games and win the championship. And the Bulls did it better than anyone. Their resume is immaculate. 72-10 and the chip, yeah. But Michael Jordan was the league MVP and leading scorer. Dennis Rodman won the rebounding title. Phil Jackson won Coach of the Year. Jerry Krause won Executive of the Year. Tony Kukoc won Sixth Man of the Year.
Dang.
Mike, Scottie, and Dennis made First Team All-Defense. And Michael and Scottie were both named to First Team All-NBA.
Did y'all just hear that? Literally the whole team was doing their damn thing. Like, literally the whole team, besides a few, he had either awards, stats of the year. They was literally all grinding, all on point.
No matter
That's
where
rare.
you look on this team,
Very rare.
all you find are the hallmarks of excellence. Where else do you start than with the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan? Sure, he was younger in 91 and 92. You could make the argument that he was a better individual talent then, but give me this Michael over the rest. After a nearly 2-year hiatus to pursue a dream of professional baseball, Jordan returned as a more mature, more evolved player. He doesn't fly quite as high as he used to, but he doesn't need to. He's smarter than he's ever been. He picks his spots and knows exactly how to get there. He's still the most lethal scorer in the league, still the nightmarish amalgamation of quickness, strength, touch.
So Michael left. When did Michael leave to go play baseball? Like, what year was that? If he just said Michael just came back, he was refreshed, and he was gone for like 2 years, so he left in 94 to go play baseball? Is that true? I thought it was a little bit later, but that's crazy that he literally left the whole sport to go play a whole nother sport and be good at it. Ain't that crazy? Like, not too many people can do that besides Deion Sanders.
Speed, shooting, and know-how. His drives to the basket still draw the breath of every spectator across the globe. He trusts his teammates, kicking them the ball when they get open or as he gets doubled.
Oh, good
He
block.
still has the abilities to wreak havoc on the defensive end and does so with zeal. He doesn't take nights off and he doesn't get tired. He led the league in minutes and played in all of Chicago's 100 games that season.
Dang.
As I have said before, a basketball in Michael Jordan's hand is the defining image
Time
of
loan
the
management
sport.
right there.
It feels like they were made for each other and that we should celebrate the fact that they were able to intersect. He was the best offensive player in the game, able to score seemingly at will from everywhere on the court, had developed into a capable and willing passer, defended at one of the highest levels in the league, and, dare I say it, took nearly every matchup personally. Right alongside him, as he was for every championship campaign in Bulls history, was Scottie Pippen.
In the Black Hamptons, black folk own 2 miles of beachfront.
You can
What
play the
is
game,
this?
but you can't win if you don't know the rules.
Often cited as the greatest sidekick in basketball and perhaps all of sports, the moniker should carry no insult when applied to Pippen. The 6'7" forward with the 7'3" wingspan from Central Arkansas made it all work and goes down as arguably the most complete basketball player of the 1990s. He filled in the blanks, as Chuck Daly once said, with passing, scoring, ball handling, defense, confidence, and leadership.
Did Pippen get his do you think he got what he deserved? Because I remember there was like a time where Scottie Pippen was like, I get overshadowed, I get overlooked because of Jordan. So do you all think that he got his praise? Do you think he got what he was looking for? Or do you think he really did get overshadowed and that he's underrated?
Whatever the
What do
team
y'all
needed,
think?
Scottie provided. To his own individual credit, during Jordan's first year playing baseball, Pippen finished third in MVP voting, and the Bulls were competing as legitimate championship contenders.
Dang.
The following season, again without Jordan, Pippen led the Bulls in every major
And
statistical
won.
category. By 96, Pippen had settled comfortably into an average of 20 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds a night. And did I forget to mention that Pippen might well be the best perimeter defender in NBA history?
Oh, and I also heard that he didn't even get paid like that, like how he was supposed to, or how he should have gotten paid. They said he was very underpaid, which I'm curious to find out how much he was
Scottie
getting paid.
Pippen might well be the best perimeter defender in NBA history. It was Pippen who was often given the responsibility of guarding the opposing team's best scorer, a fate similar to being sentenced to Alcatraz. Scottie was made to play defense and did it with every inch and ounce of his body. On that end of the floor, he was nearly as destructive as Jordan was
That
on
reaction
offense.
time, okay.
Yes, it's true that Scottie succeeded next to Jordan. But it's just as true that Jordan only succeeded next to Pippen. They formed a perfect partnership, different in so many complementary ways. Where Michael's intense competitiveness led him to berate and criticize his teammates in order to get the most out of them, it is universally said that Pippen's presence was just as necessary, the yin to Jordan's yang, with his amicable demeanor and willingness to put his arm around teammates. It was his contributions and sacrifices, as much as anything,
Shaq's
that
a
put the
big
Chicago
boy.
Bulls in position, night in and night out, to succeed. You cannot construct a more complementary team player for nearly any roster or play style than Scottie Pippen. Rounding
So I gotta ask the question, how was the world then when Jordan wasn't playing? Because everybody looked at Jordan as like the GOAT. Like, was they shocked that he went to go play baseball? Or was people like, oh, he'll be back. He'll be back before the season starts. Like, how was it during that time? That's what I want to know.
out the big three was
I
the
was
most
a
enigmatic
baby.
man in the show, Dennis Rodman. When I made a video talking about the 1989 Pistons, I mentioned that the Pistons' Dennis Rodman was not the one with the hair or the tattoos or the relationship with actresses like Madonna and Carmen Electra. This version of Dennis Rodman is that guy. As his life and career progressed into the 90s, Rodman's behavior became erratic.
Oh,
His personality, eccentric. Following a less than stellar stint with the Spurs, the 34-year-old Rodman was traded to the Bulls in advance of the 95-96 season. Of note, Rodman was and is the best pound-for-pound rebounder of all time. It's not an argument. He paced the league in boards with 14.9 a game.
dang.
David Robinson was second.
14.9 rebounds a game. That's crazy. Big man who's supposed to be in that nowadays definitely don't get that. 14 point, that's crazy.
With 12.2. Dennis Rodman averaged 22% more rebounds than David Robinson and couldn't have been more than an inch and a half taller than Michael Jordan. If you saw The Last Dance, you might remember a sequence where Dennis rambles about the different ways that the ball will fly off the rim based off of who's shooting, from where, and with what kind of spin.
Interesting.
It's edited in a funny way that makes Dennis seem equal parts savant and eccentric. But the thing is, that's the way his brain really works. Even going back to the 90s, there are accounts of Dennis watching replays and explaining that somehow, somewhere in his brain, there is a mechanism that can project, predict, and intuit angles and
hustle.
trajectories
Come on,
based
man.
off of the most imperceptible of variables. He studied tape not necessarily to discern how different teams handled pick and rolls, but to put to memory the way a Patrick Ewing finger roll behaves off the rim, or the exhaustive possibilities that a Gary Payton shot presents.
Ladies, 6 minutes,
Got
please.
these ads.
This is my life. It's not always picture perfect.
When training camp began with the Bulls, Rodman insisted that he rebound for Jordan and Pippen while they shot before practice, so as to commit their variables to memory. And don't forget, Rodman was still a pest of a defender. He was called the Worm for a reason. He could and did
Literally, when you think about it, if you looking at him right here, well, you do got Shaq against him, so that's different. But I say, but Rodman don't look that big. He don't look like a center for real. But then again, this is Shaq, so never mind.
effectively guard centers, despite giving up 4 or 5 inches.
Exactly, that's what
He
I'm
could
trying
deny
to say.
entry passes, stand his ground in the post, and outthink or outmuscle even the greats of the era.
One thing he did was hustle.
You might be tempted to call Rodman a one-dimensional player. And while it's true that he was never much of an offensive threat as a scorer or passer,
good pass.
I can't think of a better team to remedy those weaknesses than the one with the greatest scorer of all time on it.
Right.
Rodman doesn't score? Fine. He doesn't need to.
Exactly.
He can commit himself to the things that he loves and that he's good at, which is being an all-league defender and a game-changing, series-altering, morale.
I'm gonna tell you right now, and y'all can let me know if y'all agree or disagree. But today's NBA, we ain't got that hustle no more. We ain't got that hustle. We ain't got that fight no more. We ain't got that compromise. We ain't got that no more. Like, Rodman was okay with not being the leading scorer. He was like, what I love to do, I love to hustle on defense. I love to get rebounds. I love to work my ass off down low. We don't see that anymore in the NBA. Y'all can let me know if I'm wrong, but I swear, if you see it, it's only because it's playoff time. You don't see it during regular season.
Crushing
that's for sure.
rebounder. What's it matter if a pitcher can only throw one pitch, if it's a 120-mile-an-hour fastball? And the rest of the Bulls were as decorated and as talented as you will find on an NBA roster. Tony Kukoc came off the bench as an overqualified reserve, winning the 6th Man of the Year award and finishing the regular season as the team's 3rd leading scorer.
Okay.
He was a great shooter, terrific passer,
Hey,
and
I
as a
like
long,
Tony Kukoc.
versatile
I did
6'11
like
small
him.
forward, presented matchup problems at both ends. Ron Harper, the team's point guard, embraced the role of defensive specialist, offering no sanctuary for players deemed unworthy to be guarded by Jordan or Pippen.
Okay.
Steve Kerr came off the bench as a backup guard and helped space the floor and provide sparks of offense in his limited minutes, thanks to the fact that he is still the most accurate three-point shooter in basketball history.
I'm gonna tell you another thing. If you really think about Steve Kerr's resume, his resume is fire too. His resume is pretty up there. And I think he gets overlooked sometimes, but his resume is up there.
And yeah, okay, Bill Wennington and Luke Longley weren't stars at center, but they didn't really need to be. Rodman more than picked up their slack. These teams from the past that sacrifice center production in favor of more versatile perimeter players tend to project well into the modern game. At the same time, though, this lack of talented size does leave them ripe for critics who suggest that they couldn't stand a chance against a dominant center. Which line of thinking is correct? I don't know, but I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the team that went 72-10 in a league with Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, and Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know. Call it a hunch.
You got a point.
I also want to take a minute and talk about the mindset of this Bulls team. To do that, we have to talk about the Zen Master. There's some debate as to how important head coaches are to the success of NBA teams, but Phil Jackson is one of the ones who mattered. His unconventional approach to coaching centered on presence of mind and borrowed philosophies and techniques from everywhere, from the Sioux tribes to Zen Buddhism. As much as he preached the tenets of the triangle offense, emphasizing spacing, taking what the defense gave you, and playing with intent, he imbued the Bulls with a sense of the moment. Today only happens once. You only get to play the game for so long, and teams like this don't come around often.
Facts.
With the oldest roster in the league, the Bulls took these lessons to heart, ran his system beautifully, and never found a moment that was bigger than they were.
And sometimes that makes me wonder how many teams do have great coaches, but just decide not to listen to the coach, you know? Because sometimes I feel like as a coach, it gets hard because you have those superstars on the team. It's like, excuse me, that's like, no, bro, we don't want to do it that way. We're going to do it this way. Or like, no, sir, like, no, coach, like, this is how it should be done. Because sometimes I feel like you have those players that try to overpower the coach. It's like, oh, that coach don't know nothing. We got this. You know, and it's like, dang, and then when stuff goes wrong, who gets fired? The coach. And Phil Jackson was one of those great coaches.
This team had the eye of the tiger.
But it just made me wonder if, like, I'm sure there has been situations of other good coaches that didn't get the spotlight that they should have because of the players that they had. Does that make sense?
That's thanks to Phil Jackson, and thanks to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was the top of the food chain. He was an apex predator. He had no rivals, never found an equal. He competed and wanted to win to a fault. Nobody trained harder than he did. The legend of Michael Jordan is one of a man who never, not one time, got outworked. And that work ethic was applied unilaterally to his teammates. They were berated and held to the highest standard of performance in professional sports by a pathologically competitive maniac. As a result, every member of the '96 Bulls was honed like a blade. You had to be a stone-cold competitor with ice in your veins to run with Jordan. You have to take that into account when talking about the greatest teams of all time.
And again, I feel like teams don't have that. Teams don't fear a player anymore. I feel like there's not one team that's like, oh man, we gotta, like, oh man, I'm getting traded to his team. Like, he about to have me going crazy. Like, it should be that person who motivates you on the team that you either want to be just as good as or better than, you know? And it's like that person's hustle should motivate you to be great as well. And, you know, that's just me assuming that there's not a team like that. But I swear there's not nobody in the NBA that people fear now. I personally don't think so. Back then, you know,
if teams take on the identity of their best player, then this team is unlike any other. You can talk about matchups and schemes and systems all you want. This team goes into every game with a Michael Jordan mindset. They don't just expect to beat you. They don't just expect to win. They want to decimate you. They're the alpha dog, constantly looking for challenges, waiting for somebody to return their gaze. They want the fight. As they entered the playoffs, they put the pressure on themselves. They knew their 72 wins would be discounted if they didn't win the championship. As they proudly proclaimed, it don't mean a thing without the ring.
Ooh,
but if you want to talk about matchups and schemes, we can do that too. First question, what the hell are you going to do with Jordan? Once he'd reached this height of his powers, he was virtually unstoppable. Gary Payton had his moment against Jordan in the finals, and the insinuation that he could have changed the series had he guarded him sooner generated one of the defining memes of The Last Dance. And okay, let's say you do somehow slow down the best scorer to ever play basketball.
He said if he would have guarded him sooner, who was guarding him then? If he wasn't guarding him to start off, who was guarding him?
Scottie Pippen was practically designed to pick up the slack and adjust
Ooh,
on
and
the
one.
Something amazing.
Dang.
It's called Neil Makes Dinner with No Help from Me.
Today I'll be making a beef
Neil.
fly. You cannot stop both, and Scottie is going to make you pay not just by himself, but by involving the rest of the team and acting as the new distribution hub of the offense. Nobody ran the triangle better than the Bulls, which meant that every player had to stay ready for their moment. The ball moved around, everybody got a chance, shooters consistently got clean looks, and it would only make it easier for everyone else if the opponent focuses too much on Michael. Kukoc was a killer. Steve Kerr didn't miss. And even Mike himself was shooting over 40% from three this year.
Oh, he could have passed
The
it
role
too.
players fit perfectly alongside the stars,
Oh,
and the
good
result
cut, good
is
pass,
an offense
good
that was built to
movement.
counter opposing strategies.
Woo!
And the defense? There are 5 players on the NBA's all-defensive first team, essentially representing the best 5 defenders in the league at their position.
I be trying to tell y'all defense wins games. Defense is what gives you motivation to have offense, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And offense could lead to motivation to defense, but when you know that you're defending some of the best players, like MJ, if he was defending like Larry Bird, right? Even though it's a different time frame. If he was defending him and he got a steal, that's going to motivate the offense because you just stole the ball from one of the best players right now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, when you not only have one defender who you have a defender who knows how to block and rebound, that's going to motivate the others to be like, oh, dang, let me get some steals or let me push this out. Or when you got defense, you know that you got the offense to respond. That motivates you, you know? So it's like teams nowadays only got like 1 or 2 good defenders. Like the whole team ain't trying to play defense again unless it's the playoffs. This team was playing defense nonstop. Like it was all a grind mode. Like that's what basketball should be about. Like every single time you touch the floor, it should be go, grind mode, defense, offense, grind, go, go, go. Everybody should be on the same page.
The Bulls had 3 of those
missed
5
the old
players. Plus, with Kukoc able to play in big lineups and Ron Harper standing 6'6", the Bulls can switch practically everything and offer an endless amount of versatility. And despite their lack of premium centers, the Bulls were a top 4 team in rebounding thanks to, the best rebounder in the league. A precision offense with the sharpest of spearheads. A defensive squad that rivals any lineup in history, and the versatility and switchability that modern teams would drool over. How can the Bulls be any more impressive? I'll tell you how. At the end of the 1993 NBA Finals, Michael Jordan had led the Bulls to their 3rd straight championship, a feat not accomplished since the 1960s. He had achieved worldwide fame and was being hailed as the greatest basketball player ever. And then, suddenly, he walked away. He plugged away in minor league baseball to varying degrees of success.
So he just won 3 straight and then he left to go to baseball. Did he think it was no competition? Did he think it was too easy? Was he not like, okay, I'm starting to get too good and it's like, let me go challenge myself. Let me go play something else. Is that why he left?
And the Bulls tried to make sense of life after Jordan to varying degrees of success. After nearly 2 full years away from the game, Jordan returned for his 2nd act, signaled with 2 simple words. He played the final 17 games of the 95 regular season, complete with a 55-point explosion in MSG and a game winner against the Atlanta Hawks. He looked good, but he didn't quite look like the Michael Jordan of old. His body wasn't in the same kind of shape. His shot didn't go down the way it used to, and he made mistakes that made him look human, a heretical label for his airness. In the second round of the playoffs, for the first time in over half a decade, Michael Jordan lost.
Oh, wow.
Defeated at the hands of Shaquille O'Neal's Orlando Magic in 6 games. The questions began almost instantly. The Bulls traded for Dennis Rodman. That guy's a head case, right? Are they desperate? Pippen had accrued extra miles while Jordan was gone.
Dang.
How could his body hold up? And most importantly, was it possible that Michael Jordan could still be Michael Jordan? The bar had never been higher for an athlete. Michael Jordan was the standard. He was basketball.
So literally all that happened. He lost to the Magic. And he was like, all right, bet. We about to go crazy next season.
How could he walk away and come back nearly 2 years later, step into an almost completely new roster, and be expected not just to compete, not just to win, but to dominate in a way that was specific to him and his teams?
That's crazy.
In the face of these questions, Michael Jordan and the 1996 Chicago Bulls
That's crazy.
responded with the most successful season in professional basketball history.
That's crazy.
72 regular season wins and the championship. What is the greatest team of all time? What's it look like? Who's on it? And how would you know that they're the greatest of all time?
Right.
They'd probably have the best sidekick ever. Someone who can do anything on a basketball court, including completely neutralizing the opposing team's best player. They'd like to have the best rebounder since color television. Another player who isn't afraid of anything and who can stop giants in their tracks.
Facts.
They would love it if their coach just so happens to be the most decorated man to hold a clipboard.
Facts.
And they'd be lucky to have, I don't know, the most accurate three-point shooter in history. The best sixth man in the league. A bulldog of a point guard. A roster full of toughened, capable, willing players who have all been forged in the fire of their leader.
Woo!
The greatest player who has ever competed in the sport of basketball. And you'd know that they were the greatest by their play. They'd elevate their games from competitions to performances.
Yeah.
Spectators would leave awestruck, forever grateful to say that they saw this team. They were there. They witnessed history. This greatest of teams would look a whole lot like the 1996 Chicago Bulls.
Alright, so y'all gotta let me know if y'all think this was the best team ever. How did you feel when you was watching 96 Bulls? If you was a Bulls fan, do you think this was the best Bulls team ever? Let me know. This is Making the Case, 96 Bulls. Let me know what you think of this video. Any other videos you'd like to see me check out. We'd love to hear your opinions. Comment down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and push that notification bell. With that being said, see you guys next video.